Hello, I'm Daniel. I'm going to talk about what we call the different divisions in Buddhism. Now, that being said, let's not get caught up and think these divisions are important or real. There's really only one Buddhism, and these things aren't as separate as we think they are. But at the same time, it's very difficult to not think in these terms. Buddhism is the name for the path to attaining our true selves and also helping other beings. That's what Buddhism is. The Buddha got enlightenment and he taught for 45 years until he got old and he died. And first he taught what I like to call first turning Buddhism, and people call it Hinayana Buddhism, and that's generally thought of as an offensive term now. It means the little Buddhism, which is sounds kind of like a nasty thing to say. But in the text Compass of Zen, that is what Sung San calls it. He calls it Hinayana Buddhism, but I like to call it first turning Buddhism, and I don't think that anyone else had thought of it calling it that back then. And that is, the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths: all life is impermanent, and therefore life is full of suffering, and this is the path to get out of that suffering. And he taught various things about insights. And then it is said that later on he started to teach what I call second turning Buddhism, which is generally called Mahayana Buddhism. And that is where we start talking about things like emptiness and bodhisattvas. The bodhisattva it's called the Great Bodhisattva Way. A bodhisattva is where what we use to mean one who has declared that they're not going to attain enlightenment until they can bring all beings to enlightenment, which sounds really heavy, and I don't think it's quite that heavy. And then finally, ultimately, the Buddha taught what we call the Zen tradition, or was originally called the Chan tradition, or it's also sometimes called meditation Buddhism. And here's how he started teaching it. There was this one day, all these monks were around. Monks were around all the time. Monks and lay people, all sorts of people around all the time, hoping the Buddha will give a teaching, okay? And these monks were just standing around, and the Buddha came out, and he looked like he was going to give a teaching. So they all got really, really excited. Oh my gosh, the Buddha's going to give a teaching. And he silently pulled out a flower and twirled it in his hand, and then left. And so all these students are like, what the fuck just happened? Where's the teaching? Because they all brought great expectations. They thought it would be like other teachings they had gotten. They thought they would get some great wisdom, and what they got was a guy twirling a flower. But one student in particular saw this, and he smiled. His name's Mahakasyapa, and he just smiled. And the reason he smiled is because he just saw a pretty flower. He didn't bring his expectations and his baggage into this situation. So the Buddha saw him just smile, and he knew he gets it. He gets it. He's just here. He's just, a flower's here, and there's just a flower. There's just me and a flower. My baggage, my expectations are not here. It's just me and my flower. And so it's said that the Buddha made Mahakasyapa the first Zen patriarch, and the Zen tradition was transmitted down from teacher to student from there. So first turning Buddhism is all about the ego. It's when we start thinking, then our ego appears, and we start grasping at things all the time, and that makes us suffer. This suffering world is created by our thinking and our wishes, and I want this, I don't want that. It's the mind I call I, me, mine. And second turning Buddhism points to like emptiness. Nothing has a real nature. Everything is so completely interconnected that nothing is really separate from anything else. That's what second turning Buddhism is all about. So the sun, the moon, the stars, other people, we're one with everything. Everything is the truth, and awakeness is our true nature. And it's from this understanding that things are empty, then we stop grasping at things all the time, and we can come to a way of great compassion. And then, what is Zen? Zen doesn't try to explain anything. It just points directly at our true self. So there's less emphasis placed on learning complicated philosophies or language. There is just the practice of meditation and things to assist us in the practice of meditation. Zen points to this moment in our minds, like that guy twirling a flower. That is what Zen points to. Zen teaching always returns us to what we call this moment mindfulness. It's all right here. This is it. This is it. You get there by realizing you're already there. Get there by realizing you're already there. So, those are the 3 divisions of Buddhism. First turning, second turning, Zen. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.